welcome to Tuesday's edition of the Con-Versation. We are here today with JP McLean, and I know yesterday was Halloween, so I'm gonna actually ask here how many of y'all are actually eating y'all's kids' candy while they're at school. Only truthful answers.
Ah, oh dear. Well, I don't have kids, so I'll have to eat all my own candy.
Uh,
All the leftovers. I get all the leftovers.
well, that's one way to look at it. I don't think we turned our light on, so we have all the candy here still.
That's dangerous.
Well, I mean, it comes and goes. I think for the last 3 years, we've only been getting one or two trick or treaters, and it used to be 30 to 40, but
Yeah.
I guess the pandemic kind of ruined it.
Yeah, it did. It did. I live on a small little island, and here, if you want, it's rural, and if you want trick or treaters, you put a pumpkin out at your roadside, and then it's usually van loads of children that come with parents driving, and they'll stop if they know who you are, pretty much. But if they don't know who you are, they don't stop. They just go to the friends that they know. But your pumpkin tells people that you're available for kids if they want to come.
Well, that's definitely one way to do it. Now you said a small island. Where are you at exactly?
Pacific Northwest, off the coast of British Columbia, kind of between Vancouver Island and Vancouver. It's very small, 1,300 people, and we're ferry bound. But it's really good for writing. It's very quiet.
Very quiet. Do you have a coffee shop there, or do you just write at home?
No, we have two coffee shops actually. And I do write mostly at home. I don't usually write in the coffee shop because I don't like to take a table up. They don't have a lot of tables, so I only take a table if I'm eating. But the coffee shop is also a bookstore, and they sell my books. So I'm very, very happy to support them by buying yummy coffees and treats from them.
Definitely, for sure. Now let's talk a little bit about your books, because we were talking before about urban fantasy and paranormal, but I think we just came up with the word supernatural to.
That kind of fits very well. Like we were talking about, urban fantasy tends to be vampires, werewolves, and my books don't have vampires and werewolves, but they do have ghosts and lots of supernatural activity. So definitely supernatural books. And the book that is out today, it just came out today.
Oh, we got a release.
Yep. It's a release. Brand new.
We should have called this a release party.
It's so funny, the build up to the release. There's just you're concentrating, and there's so much to do, and so many, you're multitasking left and right. And then release day, it's kind of like, okay, there's not a lot left to do. Like most of the heavy lifting's been done. So it's kind of a nice day. I'm going to celebrate tonight with some champagne. But the new book is called Ghost Mark. It's a dark dreams novel. It's the number 2 in the series. And it follows a woman whose name is Jane Walker. And she was born with a blood red birthmark that chained around her body. And in the first book, that blood mark disappeared. She learned it wasn't a birthmark, but a blood mark that protected her. But at the end of the first book, she has to live with a mistake she made. And the mistake she made was she changed history inadvertently, thinking she was saving somebody, but she actually just made the tragedy happen to somebody else instead, somebody that she cared very much about. So she's living with that guilt in book 2 when she stumbles across the man that she saved or thought she saved. Only she realizes that he's turned into a drug lord and a murderer, and she is responsible for that. And he targets her boyfriend, who she's never had a boyfriend before, so she's devastated. And the only way to stop him is to make a decision about whether or not she's going to try to change history again and fix things, or will it make it worse?
So we have a little bit of a butterfly effect.
Yes. Yeah, it's the time slip is really interesting to think about how many things could possibly be impacted by a small change in history.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that's actually a good question to come up with, is when you're writing some of this, and like I don't know if you had a certain area in mind that you wrote it about, or if it was a fictional area that you wrote it about. But how much research do you think would have gone into having to change a little bit, like the time difference,
Yeah.
the effects?
It's kind of mind-boggling when you first start. When you first start, it looks black and white, but as you start to write it, you realize that it's so much more complicated than that, because every single interaction is connected to something else, and usually more than one thing. If you think about it, these books are all set in the Pacific Northwest, in Vancouver in particular, in current time. But if you think about, if you go back and you have a conversation with somebody on a corner of a street, if that conversation didn't happen in a different reality, then maybe the person you were having the discussion with instead crossed the road and got hit by a car and died. And all the repercussions connected to the fact that that person died. They wouldn't have had the children maybe that they were going to have, or they wouldn't have, discovered some theorem. It's really quite a bit, and that's just one interaction. So you can imagine if there are many interactions, like if an entire life disappears from history, how that affects things.
Now, see, that's very intriguing. I mean, I can see how you would have to actually go back and say, "Hey, this happened, but now it didn't happen. So this is the effects."
Yeah.
Almost chilling in a sense.
Well, it's easy to make it chilling when you think about you're like it, because this is a fiction. It's set in a real world, but of course it's fiction. So when you think about all of the different elements that you could tweak with, and you could change, or you could ramp up the consequences of. And I'm writing the third book right now in that series, so I'm exploring that even further, because if you go back into the past and somebody sees you, you don't necessarily know, because it was the past, that you've been seen when you're in your present state. So I'm playing with that idea, and it's really quite interesting, because you might encounter someone who has seen you, maybe not interacted with you, but has seen you and knows you, but you don't know them. And this is when, this is because she's visible when she inadvertently drops back in time.
Now, there's another aspect to play with. Is like, say somebody saw you around the corner, and then your other person's around this corner.
Yeah. Yes. Like, what happens?
How did you get here when you were just right there?
Yeah. And she doesn't go back in history long time. Like she should go back to someone's childhood maybe, and see some events from a childhood, but she doesn't go back years and years and years. Like she wouldn't go back to a different century or anything. So far, I shouldn't say never, never, because that could be fun. I mean, it's all been done before, of course, but it's fun to play with and change it, switch it up a bit.
Kind of like Sean Connery's movie, Never Say Never Again.
Yeah. I keep thinking of Back to the Future, because that was such fun, that movie.
Oh, definitely. Now, what inspired these stories? Because I mean, you had to have something that triggered these.
Yes, the big inspiration for the first book was the opening scene of an NBC show called Blind Spot. It was starring Jamie Alexander, and that was the scene in Times Square that had been cleared out, and there was a duffel bag abandoned in the center of the square, and a bomb tech was approaching in all his gear. And as he approaches this bag, he sees the zipper unlock or unzip from inside, and out pops Jamie Alexander, and she's covered in tattoos from the neck down. And that stuck with me. I found that scene really striking, and I wondered what it must be like to live with markings that weren't of your choosing, because she didn't remember how she got the ink, or why, or who she was. And so that was the spark that started this blood mark that snaked around Jane's body in the story. And then the rest of it is just the way my mind works when the story goes. I wanted her to be very, very damaged, because then there's lots to fix and lots to play with, right? So she also has paralytic narcolepsy, and that's when she falls into these dreams, and she's vulnerable because she can't move when she's in these dreams, and she's it's a different element. And that time thing just kind of happened. I just thought this would be such fun if she could see things that nobody knew she saw.
Mm-hmm.
And so she sees things that she learns not to talk about because people don't believe her, or they do believe her, but they make fun of her because they don't want people to know that it's true what she's saying.
Now, how many books do you have out?
Today's book is my 9th book. Today's book marks 1 million words in print for me.
Wow.
It's a big, big day. I am having champagne tonight.
Wow.
Yeah, I have 7 books in the original series that I wrote, which was The Gift Legacy. And then this is the 2nd book in the Dark Dream series. And I have a novella out as well, which is my safe for, 12 and up book. I often sell books at markets and fairs and bookstores, and parents come in with their kids. And the other books really are for adults. They're not, adults 16 and up, I would say would be fine, but not 12-year-olds. So I wrote one so I would have something that was safe for a younger person, that the parent could buy the book and let them not feel left out.
Now, are they all connected together, both series?
No, the first series is completely separate from this series, but I always set them in Vancouver because I know the city well and I love the city, and it's got lots of different parts to it, like most cities. It's got the seedy underbelly, but it's also got the upper class areas and the hoity-toity areas, and it's just a really fun city for me.
I think you can enjoy all cities,
Mm-hmm.
maybe depending on on weather. Because I know it's probably getting cold up there where you're at right now.
It is wet. It's wet. We get wet more than, we do get cold, but oh man, when the rain set in, they set in. That's how I started writing the first book. Was I had been in the sunny South for 5 years, Tucson in 3 of those years, Mexico 2 of the others. And when we got back, the weather had turned, and I thought, oh my goodness, I have to get used to this again. And so that's when I started writing.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah, you just want the fireplace on and blanket over your shoulders and just hunker down.
Now, with the start of November, I have to ask this question. NaNoWriMo. Do you ever participate in that?
I don't. I find it too nerve-wracking. Like I need the space in my head to think. Have you done it?
I tried it 1 year, and it was almost like too much pressure for me.
Yeah, that's the word I'm trying to think of, is pressure.
I didn't like it, and I didn't care for it, and it's like, I'd rather do this at my own pace. Let me come out on my own with my books. It's like, don't try to force me in 1 month to write 100,000 words. No.
A lot of people find the challenge stimulating, and they're quite successful at it. But I'm like you. I don't like the pressure. I want to be able to do my writing the way I do my writing and not change my routine up for it.
Now, where can people find your books other than the coffee shop on the little island?
They're wide. So they're available to order everywhere. And they can find links to them on my website, jpmcleanauthor.com.
jpmcleanauthor.com?
That's right. There's a bookstore on there that has links to everything. It's a one-stop shopping.
Let's see if I got that right. There we go.
That's right. You got her.
So everybody go check her out. I do hope that y'all had a wonderful Halloween. It is November now, and as all the posts on Facebook have been saying, get ready for Mariah Carey's song. I know I'm going to see how long I can go without listening to it. So I'm staying out of malls for a while. But it was great having you with us, and congratulations on your new release, which is today, people. That is today. And we will catch y'all. Well, actually, Amy's going to be hosting the next Con-Versation. I'm going to be at the doctor's. Hopefully everything's going to go well. But until then, everybody,